Welcome back to the show, and remember to be kind. Get it, bees? I'm sitting next to bees. Welcome back to Creatures, Caverns, and Crafting. Keeping in the tradition of our cheap crafts, I have a giant fly that I purchased from the Dollar Tree, and I think we're going to try to create some sort of wasteland bloat fly, maybe a quartz fly today. Let's just see what we can get creative with and craft. To start off with, nothing's more disgusting than boils or pockets of corruption. And to do this, I'm simply going to just take some hot glue. I'm going to allow it to drip and dry. And we're just going to super glue this onto the back of the fly. It should have a nice disgusting effect once we're done. I'm going to use a lighter to smooth out the hot glue. This will also get rid of any excess that's left over. To add some more detail to our fly, what I'm going to do is start to take the plastic legs off another dollar store fly, and we're just going to put those on the back. I'm going to use a little super glue to do this. I'm going to just drill a hole here, and I'm going to use a X-Acto knife to do that. If you're working with the X-Acto knife, be careful. It is sharp, you can cut yourself. But we're just going to wedge a hole there, and we'll put the leg inside of it. And we'll put about 6 of those in, super glue them. Now we're going to move on to some modeling paste. This is a tip by DM Scotty. Guys, this is the first time I've used modeling paste before, but it is very simple and easy to work with. All we're going to do is just take a brush here, just put a little bit on like so. And you can actually work up a nice texture. What I'm looking for is kind of a furry look on this. And you can also take like a toothpick. This is a coffee stirrer. You can just kind of run that through and kind of create a really cool effect. Once the modeling paste had dried, I decided to go back and add some praying mantis legs to the front. I think this makes the fly look a lot more lethal. Alright, now it's time to paint this model, and we've already black bombed it. So we're going to move on to applying a coat of green. I'm going to use a shallow water green. This is a Dwarven Forge brand. You don't have to use that. And I'm going to thin the paint using this acrylic thinner, but you can also use water if you have that on hand. I'm going to use this lid so you can kind of see what I'm going to do here a little bit better. I'm just going to mix the thinner with the paint. And now we're going to go ahead and start applying this to the model. The thinner should allow it to flow pretty easy. Remember, we want it thin, so it's okay if the black shines through a little bit. And we're going to cover the bottom and the top of the model. And while it's still wet, we're going to take a lighter green. Again, this is the Dwarven Forge brand, but you could use any craft brand that you have. And I'm just going to put a drop in and add a little bit more thinner. We're going to start mixing the two together. Notice I'm going to leave a little bit of the lighter green untouched. We're going to use that as we start to build to a lighter tone. We're going to take what we've mixed so far, just start applying it to the top here and the bottom. Remember, this is where the light would be hitting the model. Might even get the top of the head here at the bottom as well. Alright, now we're going to work up to that lighter green, and we're also going to mix in just a little bit of silver, and we're just going to treat this kind of as a highlight. So we're just going to do a few spots on the model itself. Alright guys, here's our model fully painted, and I'm going to go over the steps on how I got it to this point, so don't worry about that. I just didn't want to do a full 30-minute painting tutorial. We're going to start with the metallic shine that you see here, and to get that look, I'm going to use this silver paint, and I'm also going to use a bit of gold. Remember, we're taking that silver, mixing it in with the light green. We'll allow that to dry and then go back over it with the gold. Once all that's dried, we're going to hit it with a green shade wash. That's going to tone everything down. And then we're going to allow that to dry. Next, we're going to focus on the details. And to do this, I'm going to use a white. This is a vintage white, but you can use any white. And I'm going to just put that on the eyes and on these boils at the back. We're going to allow that to dry. So for the eyes, we're going to start with a red, and we're going to do the same wet blend method that we did earlier. We're just going to mix an orange. I'm using a Troll Slayer orange, and what we're going to do is just build that up. So we'll have red at the bottom and go up with the orange, and then finally, once that's dry, we'll apply a glaze to the eyes. Just give them that nice sheen. Now for the boils, we're just going to use a Nurgle Rot. That's a technical paint. You could use maybe a neon green and a glaze if you don't have that. Next, we're going to just apply a little bit of nightshade in certain areas. This has a really cool blue effect. And I'm also going to use a Soulstone Blue. That's a technical. And we're just going to put that in a few areas, mainly where the light would hit the model. And then we're just going to do dry brush of silver and gold on the legs, the antenna, and those arms that we added earlier. This looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and put this on a base now. The first step we're going to take in the base process is cutting this acrylic friction rod in two. Now when we do that, we need to be careful. This is fibrous, so you don't want to breathe this in. You don't want to rub your eyes after you cut this. I would recommend that you use a vacuum cleaner immediately while you're doing this, and that you go ahead and wash your hands before you go any further. So really quick, what we're going to do is take that acrylic rod and we're going to put this through a base. And you notice I put some washers under the bottom just to give it some weight. We're going to glue this in using some E6000 and allow that to dry. So next we're going to go ahead and apply some air dry modeling clay to the base. Now what I did is smooth this out. I put a little bit of glue on the base first. We're going to make sure that the edges stay nice and clean, and we'll allow that to dry overnight. Now we're going to add some Mod Podge to the base. We're going to let that dry. That's going to prevent any moisture from getting into that clay and cracking. For our last steps, we're going to add Vallejo texture paint to the base. Then we're just going to paint everything. I'm using browns, building up to a dry brush of a pecan. Then we're just going to add some pigments. You guys know I love my pigments. And then just for finishing touches, we'll put some tufts, maybe some other details on there as well. Looks like it's ready for the table. Let's see what it looks like. Alright guys, here's our finished project. Final thoughts on this. This model was big and cheap, which is a win-win in my book. If you're a beginner painter and you're just starting out, this would be a great way for you to apply principles like dry brushing, wet blending, thinning your paints. Often we get caught up in using smaller models, like 28mm models, and that can be kind of difficult in some ways, especially when you're trying to do eyes and really small details. Go ahead and go to the store and try this out. Pick up a big insect or maybe even a dinosaur and just slap some paint on it. Anyways guys, I'll leave you with a nice video for the end. Hey guys, that's a wrap for this week. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already, think about subscribing. I'm going to leave a link to my new Instagram. You can see the stop motion videos without watching the entire tutorial, and you can also see some sneak peeks. As always, stay safe. We'll catch you next week. Goodbye.